2023. Jill, can you do roll call, please?
Lloyd Grechuk,
Here.
Laura Greenlee Carp,
Here.
Joseph Fromm,
Here.
Ingrid Kohler is absent today. Sue Springborn is absent. Sarah Zaradka will be coming shortly. Artie Alvarez. And Cassidy Schwer will be absent today.
Okay. Adoption of the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Laura makes a motion, second. Artie seconds. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Approval of the minutes. Joe?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second.
I second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Anybody from the public other than the Southwood Group that would like to speak to the Park Commission? Anybody on Zoom?
Nobody on Zoom.
Okay. I'd like to welcome our new Park and Rec Commission member, Joe Fromm. Joe, could you just fill us in a little bit about what you're all about?
What I'm all about? Well, I've been working in restaurants for about 8 years. I used to have a wild side of me where I hitchhike around the country. Been camping ever since I was old enough to walk. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm all about. So I'm excited to be part of the community in this capacity.
Well, thank you very much. You'll enjoy it. Okay, let's move to Southwood. Bill and Tiffany, if you'd like to come forward and give a presentation.
Just some documents that I believe you have in hand. Yeah. So I'm Bill Bryan. I'm a member of the task force that Kathy leads. Tiffany is also here in case I say something goofy or can't answer any questions. And then Daryl Meyer is also the fourth member of the task force, and he's not here, not able to be here this evening.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, and thanks for the time. We've tried to get into the last few meetings, but with weather and everything else we've had the last few months, it's good to be here tonight. So you should have in front of you a 2022 report, which Kathy put together. And we can go through any aspects of that you might want to talk about. But you see a number of things fairly typical from year to year, just to keep the preserve in its native state as much as we can, and just to maintain it. So there were a number of things that were done throughout the year. I guess I'll just leave it. If you have any questions or anything, you have the report in front of you. And so then you also should have a 2022 expense report where Kathy has outlined the different expenses throughout the year. Of course, most of those occurring in the spring and summer months. And we had a total budget we were working against of $7,000. And we remained with about 1,700 left. A lot of that was due to wood chips that were to be purchased in December, and with the weather and whatnot, we weren't able to get those in. So, but otherwise, things are outlined there, unless if you have any questions.
And is this just an update, or are you seeking approval for any of the items?
Well, that was 2022 is just to update you on what we did last year.
Thank
And then,
you.
yeah,
That
sure.
was a very kind
sure.
way to tell me it's not 2022 anymore.
No, it's all right. Sometimes I still have trouble remembering. And then 2023, you should have a budget proposal in front of you where the numbers are more or less the same as 2022. And again, this, I guess this gives us a snapshot of the bigger picture that we have for 2022, but a lot of work in buckthorn removal, a lot of work in the prairie maintenance, and then Earth Day cleanup, garlic mustard pull, fall work days where we try to engage the the town and have people turn out. And those went pretty well last year, so that's good. And then again, those wood chips. So,
Thank you for all your hard work out there.
well, Kathy is the one who deserves
Yeah,
most of the recognition, and
He's- she's been on it for probably a good 15, almost 20 years now.
yeah, and you, at least I have recognized, and Tiffany and I were talking, and Daryl, we've all recognized how much Kathy does, but then when she has to kind of step aside for a while to take care of herself, then you realize just how much Kathy does. And so we'll try to carry that on. We've continued to meet with Kathy and plan out this year ahead of us. So
We'll send her our thanks when you see her.
yeah, we'll do. So any other thoughts or questions?
Any questions?
This is a wonderful recap. Thank you for all the time and thought put into it. I just wanted to say that because I know it's not for nothing that it takes time to create all these documents.
Yeah. And again, Kathy is responsible for most of that, so. But
Are
I'll
we
pass that
voting
on.
Yeah.
on the budget tonight?
No, Jill meant, huh?
She's not there.
No, I know. We're gonna have to wait for Jill, because Jill had mentioned that there was a certain amount already approved.
Yeah, Jill pulled Tiffany and I aside just before we started here this evening and said that $6,500 had been approved for 2023.
And it looks like you have 1,700 remaining from last year, so will they get to keep that and roll that over, or do we know that?
They'll still just have the $6,500 for this coming year.
They won't
It
roll
doesn't
over?
roll over.
So
No.
we should plan on 6,500 for 2023.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or we can,
We
or we
can,
could make a motion to cover the gap, to give it 7.
Well, I think
I think,
7 is an appropriate amount. I think we can speak to the things we would do with $7,000. If it's possible to increase the budget to 7, that would be fantastic.
okay, I'm gonna wait till Jill comes back.
Sure.
So we can get a clarification on whether the 6,500 was approved by the city council or whatever. Did she say?
No, she just said that it was approved, but I'm not sure
7,000.
by what plan.
6,500 was.
Yeah.
6,500 was
That's by
Oh,
approved,
that's last year, I'm sorry.
but I don't know by who.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
let me wait until Jill gets back, and then we'll quick do it. Soren? We'll go back and start with you after we're done, and then if Jill comes back, I'm just gonna hop quickly for that motion. So are you gonna stay for the whole meeting? Yeah. Oh, you are? Okay, then I'll just wait till after Soren's
You
done.
don't have to, just so you know, we are doing a exhilarating training, Soren, not to take away from the work that you do about open meeting law, data practices, conflict of interest, et cetera. So
Maybe I'll go read up on how to take better care of Mesic
Yeah.
property, water property. Yeah, I think if that's what the rest of the agenda is, and if we could ask you to consider increasing the budget to 7,000, that would be sufficient, I think.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if you're gonna want to leave,
we can send you an email.
we can,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Like, we can have that discussion here, and
good point.
then we can send the email to you afterwards
okay,
and let you know what has or has not been approved.
okay. Jill has my email
wait a
address,
minute.
and
Here she comes.
Does anybody have an issue covering the gap?
Nope.
No.
Jill's gonna.
I don't know.
Jill, can you highlight us on the issue with the 6,500?
So we start talking budget in June for the following year. So coming up this next year, we will talk to Southwood prior to the end of the year, because then the budget was set by the end of the year.
Oh.
And it was already, so they just carry over the same amount that was from last year. And then did the 6,500.
So is what got approved last June for 2022, or was it?
They just used the same amount that they saw from 2022 for 2023.
Would there be an issue with us saying that we'd like it to be 7,000 and
2022 was 7,000 as well, it looks like.
My understanding was 2022 should have been 7,000. I wonder if that
Because you
discussion,
didn't spend it all, maybe? Because it
Yeah, that's
looks like
what
there
I-
was a balance.
although we wouldn't have known that perhaps in June, that we weren't
Yeah.
going to be able to buy the wood chips in December, but
Okay, so it's the city budget, it's not the parks budget? Okay, so we don't really have control over that.
So it's already been city council approved. Well, you
Could the parks say?
Sure. You could make a motion, we could send it to city council and see what they say. Yeah, that's,
That, but specify that it would come from the parks budget and not city.
yeah. So, any questions or comments?
Do we want to make a motion?
Yes,
I
somebody,
was looking at Artie. I thought he was
Yeah,
gonna
I
make
thought
a
you were
motion.
gonna say it.
oh, no. Go ahead,
How dare you? No, go ahead.
it's all yours.
I make a motion to contribute $500 from the parks budget to cover the gap between the 65.
The park fund,
Park fund.
Okay.
Park fund.
okay. Second,
A second.
Sarah seconds, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
All opposed.
Now, we made that recommendation. It doesn't mean you can, like, you have that $500 now to go spend it. It would need to be approved by the city council, and we would find out about that later, probably by next month.
So right now you got 6,500.
yeah, well, it's.
You'll find
we're-
out.
We still aren't ready to do a whole lot in the. so,
I'll be curious to see how that culvert works now that we got all the snow this year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Didn't
Yeah.
it flood last year?
Pardon me?
Yeah, it flooded very extensively last year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It will be interesting.
Hopefully, well, it won't be the only place.
They are
flooding, I guess.
predicting a lot of flooding this year.
Yeah. So if that's increased, if the $500 increase goes through, you'll let us know via
Yeah.
email?
Jill, can you let them know? Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you for all your hard work, all the members on the Southwood Nature Preserve group. And field any more questions, comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thanks again. I'll pass that
Brittany,
on to
thank
the
you.
others.
You were part of the group too? You're just here? Okay, thanks for coming. All right. Soren.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Soren Maddock. I'm the city attorney. I'm with the law firm of Campbell Knutson, and I've been going around early part of this year to all the various commissions and doing some trainings. With all the turnover we've had, we thought it'd be a good idea to just update people. Some of you already may have heard this, but sometimes it's good to just get a quick reminder. So I don't plan on dwelling on the materials, but I do plan on hitting some of the highlights to make sure everyone has has heard it from the same source. What I'd recommend is if you have questions while we're going, just stop me. Let's address it then and there. If you have hypotheticals or things that have come up, now would be a good time to go over that. In addition to not in the materials is spending, which we've just gone over right here, but I know there's been questions about funding, how does spending work, and things like that. So that may be something good to address at the end of this, is what I was anticipating. So with that, I believe you do have the materials in front of you. I'm still a paper person. I'd start with the open meeting law. Right now, what we are doing is observing the open meeting law. You are meeting in public. The public has a right to attend. Jill or someone else, or maybe Jenny, I'm not sure who notices your meetings, but the law does require that you notice these meetings and that they are open to the public. It does not guarantee the public the right to participate or speak. You control that aspect of it, but they do have an absolute right to be here and watch you do your work. So with that in mind, one of the ideas behind that law is that at a local government level, we want decision-making to be open and transparent. Transparent gets kicked around a lot, and that's the idea behind it. Where I don't see committees or councils get into trouble when you're meeting, you usually conduct these things in the appropriate way. The pitfalls of the open meeting law, candidly, are text messages and emails, things of that nature. And so the example I would offer you is, if Jill sends out an email to all of you, that's perfectly acceptable. But if a discussion ensues while that email chain is out there, someone hits reply all or says, hey, I'll be there, I think this is a good idea, that discussion electronically is a violation of the open meeting law. If you're engaging folks in a quorum, which is 4 for you guys, that can result in a violation of the open meeting law. The idea is you're talking about city business, you're gaining consensus on what you want to do, and you're not doing it in a forum where the public can participate. Sometimes there's questions, well, is there a way we can do it via email that it conforms to the open meeting law? And my opinion is no, that there isn't. That communication goes along with text messaging also. There is no exception for various forms. If you are communicating as a group, it can result in a violation of the open meeting law. It is. And so the first email may not be the violation from her. And if you theoretically did a reply all, you still haven't engaged a full quorum, arguably, although some would say, well, just because one person's talking, he's talking to the full group, much like you are right now. There's no difference. So the reply all is a problem. Now, if you talk to Lloyd individually after this meeting, no, it's just 2 people talking, even if it's about city business. The problem with that is then you get into the serial meeting. When you guys get done talking, if Lloyd sees Laura at the store tomorrow and says, hey, I was talking to Artie and here's what I know, well, that's 3 people. And then if that conversation continues. So you really have to be mindful of the open meeting law, what you're discussing, things that you're doing outside of this quorum right here. And I do understand, I don't know if do you guys meet once or twice a month?
Once.
Once. I do understand that, hey, we meet once a month, how do we get anything done? So I'd encourage you, you can assign some tasks, you can work with Jill on that, but there is no way around that. If you want the full body to start making decisions or gaining input, that needs to be done in an open meeting, and there's just no exceptions to that. And so that is the hard part about the open meeting law, but the idea is, look, these decisions should be made in the open for the public to see to the extent they want to. There should be minutes from those meetings to document what was been done, what was said, and decisions that were made. And so even though you're not the council, you are subject to the open meeting law, and that's just crystal clear. Any questions on the open meeting law? Sometimes the whole email and texting can, and actually the next thing kind of dovetails into that with the Data Practice Act, but the open meeting law can be violated either electronically or in person or things of that nature. Now, if there's a chance social gathering, if you all happen to be at the same restaurant, or if you are at a high school basketball game or a church or whatever, it doesn't mean that a quorum, all of a sudden you have to disperse. Chance social gatherings, are not a violation of the open meeting law, but you can't be there and then talk about business. So if you all attend a high school basketball game or are there, that's not a problem. If you use that as an opportunity to talk about the business at hand, that's when the violation occurs. Okay. Any questions on that? Or if things come up, let me know. Data Practice Act, I'm on page 3. So what the Data Practice Act says is that there is a presumption that all city documents or communications in writing, that is, are presumed public. So when Jill sends you an email, if someone put in a data practice request and said, I want to see all emails from Jill to the commission, they would get those. Those are public documents. And so along those lines, any communication you have back to staff are public documents. And so what I encourage people, and it usually isn't a problem for the commissions, but I would encourage you to keep in mind that those communications and what you write are public, and just be mindful of it. If they request it, they get it. They don't necessarily have to disclose who they are. They don't have to disclose why they want it. It doesn't matter if their motives are not necessarily the best. It doesn't matter. It's a public document. They get it. And there is not an end run on this. What I've seen some folks say is, well, I don't have to disclose that email. It was on my personal computer. It was on my work computer. It was on this email address. Doesn't matter. What matters is the content of what's being sent. So if you're using your work computer to send park emails, those emails are public. Same thing with texts. If you're texting about business, if you're texting with someone about, hey, you know, you think we could get $500 more for this project, things like that, those texts are public, even if it's from your personal phone. So if you're doing city business, those are public documents regardless of where they are created. Does that make sense?
The new emails, are those, so those are set up
Yeah,
to go to my server, but that they're gonna come as the city, they're gonna be labeled as the city?
it's going to be like a whole new email. So if you would open a new Gmail or an iCloud email, this is a new email, northstpaul.org. And yeah, it's a good time to talk about this. So Carrie sent you a link to activate that, get that set up. That way you can email me or any subcommittee member or anything, and then it'll keep all of your business for Park and Rec in one spot.
Okay,
It's a good idea to be disciplined and use that email, because if we get data practice requests, we can just comb through your emails, look at it, and take care of it. When it's your personal account, it gets a lot more complicated. What I would encourage you not to do is if you get a separate email account, don't belt and suspender it and say, hey, send it to my city account and my personal account. It kind of defeats the purpose of setting up that city account. The idea is keep everything in one spot, because the complaint from someone who sees that it's being sent to two different accounts is, I see you've responded with the emails that were stored in this account. What about this other account? So it almost creates twice the work. So I would encourage you, I know you don't have city emails now, but I would encourage you, once you get one, to use it exclusively for city business.
okay.
Any questions on that? The way data practice works is someone has to make a data practice request. It goes to Jill or Jenny, and then they start circulating the request to gather the information. And it just depends on the nature of the request in terms of what needs to be done on that. But just keep in mind that we have to respond in a reasonable amount of time, and that's just an absolute. There's no way around that. Okay. Conflicts of interest, I don't imagine this will come up much for you. The idea behind the conflicts of interest in Minnesota are, hey, you've volunteered to do this for the city. We're not going to let you use this position of power or influence in the city capacity to somehow enrich yourself. So if all of a sudden the Parks Commission wanted to start to contract with Lloyd for a bunch of services, that's a conflict of interest. You cannot be on the receiving end of payments for something that you are engaged in here at the commission. And I would hope that a lot of that is straightforward on that. I don't see it come up very often with commissions, but it is something to be mindful of. If there's something before you that you, an immediate family member, or someone in the household can financially benefit from, you have a conflict of interest. And at a minimum, you should be recusing yourself. There may be other rules where we have to take a look at it and see if we can even enter into the contract to begin with. So I will tell you that because it deals with public dollars and tax dollars, my advice on conflict of interest tends to be somewhat conservative, to stay away from it, even on the appearance of it, because we're talking about tax dollars which are compelled from the taxpayers, and how we spend them matters, and the faith and trust that we have with the public. We have to be very, very careful with that. So I don't think it's going to come up much for you in some other committee. I was with the EDA, by the very nature of what they do and spend, sometimes it can come up. But it is something to be mindful of on conflict of interest.
But it's only financial. So like if we were to enter into a partnership with the school district,
Right.
and money was not exchanged, but somebody on the commission served on both, worked in the school district and served on this commission to put on an event or something like that.
I wouldn't have a problem with
Okay.
that. But if let's say someone's a superintendent at the school and we enter into a contract here or an agreement, that is something I would want to at least just take a quick look at and understand what the relationship is. But you're right, if it's just a joint venture, I don't have a problem with that.
My only other question is if we put on an event like an art festival that is planned by this commission, and members of the commission have the opportunity or would like to be vendors at that art fair, is that a conflict of interest?
Not in my opinion.
Okay.
No. I mean, you get the same opportunity as anyone else in the public, so depending how you set it up, the same rules that apply to the public apply to you. And
Yep.
so, if there's a limited number of booths, however we pick, that would apply to you. You don't get a, first dibs because
Right.
you're on the commission. So no, in that instance, I wouldn't view that as a conflict.
Great, thank you.
Other questions on that? I feel like
What's a motion for call to order?
are you at the back of the?
Sorry, yeah, I'm on 7. Am I too far ahead?
Yeah, let me
Okay.
plow through this.
Sure.
Gift law, again, this shouldn't come up too much with you. This can be an issue for city council or EDA. If you have an interested person, so for example, remove it from this committee, but if we had a developer and they were offering to take a city council member out for dinner, or here's tickets to the game, things of that. If you are trying to buy influence, that is a violation of the gift law. Doesn't mean you can't get birthday presents from friends and family. But if people you don't know all of a sudden start showing up with swag or other gifts, that is a problem. This, I always say, this provision usually drives anyone who's in sales nuts because they're very accustomed to, let's go golfing, let's go do this, it's a point of connection, let me pay for it. If you're doing something on behalf of the government, that just isn't allowed. You're not allowed to buy the influence. Everything has to be on the up and up. So that's the gift law in a nutshell. Candidly, even down to the, hey, let's go out for a beer. They swipe the card and pick up a couple beers, and the next thing you know, they have a contract with the city. That's no-go. Okay. Role of city manager. Brian is the primary contact after Jill. Jill and Brandy come and consult with you. Ultimately, any of the spending things that you guys are working on more than likely fall within his authority to authorize. He may choose to take it to the council if it's an adjustment of the budget. But otherwise, keep in mind that the money the council sets aside for this group still has to be approved by the spending agent, which is Brian in this particular instance. When we talk about, hey, let's enter into a contract, this body technically doesn't exist from a contracting purpose. It's a contract with the city. So anything you decide to do is ultimately, and I like the way you handled that initial issue, it is a recommendation. You've been tasked with certain things. It makes sense based on your mission statement or what you're choosing to do, but it's ultimately a recommendation. So if you recommend adjusting your budget by $500, that's up to Brian and the council. If you guys see an activity you want to do, a partnership with the school, and there's an actual agreement that comes, that agreement is between the school and the city, not the school and the park district. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. Rules of order.
I'm sorry, let's
Yep.
go back to just to clarify, so if we want to have a joint event, do we need to get that approved ahead of time?
Well, it's only if you have a contract.
Well, but let's talk about what is the event. I mean, a lot of you, if you're having an event and it's city-sponsored and there's city funds, it is not uncommon to have a quick contract with those. Now, if you just host something and it's been authorized, no, that's fine. But candidly, the answer is always going to be, it depends. What are you talking about? Give me an example and I can give you some guidance.
Like the egg hunt.
The egg hunt,
Well, the egg hunt
in a
isn't a
park.
partnership.
See, and they're like on those things,
the sky, the Star Watch.
yeah.
Sometimes we want to collaborate with other groups, like the school district.
Well, the Star Watch is a contracted event. I believe, doesn't Mike have a sign?
Yeah, so all of those events are recommendations, which then the city does hold a contract with the music and Star Watch.
I'm going to say all of those ideas, they involve city facilities, so ultimately it takes council approval. Again, you're tasked with these things to come up with the ideas, but they are ultimately going to take council approval to do. And so whether there's a contract or not, if you're talking about having an event where you're reserving city space, it needs to be run through the city. This entity doesn't control the parks, the city council does.
You guys just don't see what I do after you put the schedule together, then I put all the contracts together with the.
So if it doesn't have a contract, we can have it,
Still, well,
like with the school?
no, I mean, if you go to the school district and say, we'd like to do something together, maybe we look at it and say, this is pretty low level. We don't need to actually do a piece of paper. But we would still necessarily need council approval. If you're going to say, we're going to do a joint event at this park, and it's going to be with the school, and we're going to reserve an event, that still takes council approval to reserve that park. It's the council's park. So maybe it's not a piece of paper, but it's still an event. It's a city, and ultimately it's a city event. If something happens there, it's the city's insurance. There's no insurance here. There's nothing here. You're an advisory body to the council. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Rules of order, I would hope that never becomes an issue for you guys. All bodies are governed in North St. Paul by Robert's Rules of Order. I routinely say that I think Robert's Rules of Order are one of the worst sets of rules for any local body to adopt. It's a book this thick, and it's meant to govern the legislature and bigger bodies. Really, what you guys need to do is, the rules of order are exactly that. They're meant to keep a sense of order so people aren't talking over each other, speakers are respected, and that it becomes clear when you've actually made a recommendation or a decision. It takes a motion, a second, and then a majority of the quorum. So as a 7-member body, a quorum is 4, and if you only had 4, it takes a majority. So a 2-to-2 vote fails. You'd need a 3-to-1. If you have 5 people here, then it takes 3 votes on that too. So you need a majority of the quorum present. And we can go through some scenarios. So if 7 are here and 7 are voting, you need 4 people to adopt it. If you only have 6, again, 3-to-3 doesn't cut it because that's a tie vote. You need a majority. So that again would take a 4-2 vote to adopt something. Lloyd, as the presiding officer, you recognize people, you control the patterns, or the voting patterns, things of that nature. But like the mayor, after that, candidly, you're just one vote like the rest. You're usually a point of contact or maybe the spokesperson, but everyone here's vote counts equally. There's not a strong chair policy on that. Were there other questions on rules?
Can you, let's see, motion to amend. I think I got 2, I got 3. 1 I got, 2 I got, 3 I got. Complex question 4. Just, what does that mean?
Which number 4 are you?
Well, secondary motion.
C.
What page?
So while the commission
7, sorry.
considers the motion,
7.
members may make secondary motions. I haven't ever seen in my 25 years, these are just taken out of Robert's rules, what count
Okay.
as secondary motions. I've never seen someone make a complex motion. Usually if you have a complex motion, what I say is, look, break that down from the 5 things you've said, and instead of trying to jumble it into one, let's just handle that one at a time.
Okay.
We need to make a motion to do that.
Well, no, I mean, if your motion stands and it's been seconded, theoretically, we can vote on it. But it's, it becomes an issue of does everyone know what you're voting on? Sure.
All right.
Just calls it a secondary motion.
Yeah,
Fine.
yeah.
One-
Now, those motions do take a motion second and a vote. What I have seen people do is when kind of the discussion keeps going and going and going, I'll see someone, I call the question, which some bodies recognize as, okay, we'll stop debate and now we'll vote on it. Well, technically, calling the question itself takes a vote or a motion, a second, and and you vote on it, and that stunts the debate. That's why that kind of stuff, to me, especially at a commission, I would strongly encourage you, don't spend too much time on Robert's rules. Keep it simple.
Okay.
The
Then we'll
one-
just keep rolling like it was.
Yeah. The one- Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The one thing I would say about Robert's rules, if you had a strict parliamentarian, what they'd say is when you're debating or discussing an item, someone should make a motion, make a second, and then you discuss it and debate it. I encourage you to do just the opposite. I would encourage you to take the topic, discuss it, gain consensus, say, yeah, I know I could support that. Let's not do that. And when you're done and you know you've got a consensus, that's when you make the motion, because that's the cleanest motion and a second to do.
Kind of what we do.
That
Yeah.
is what we do.
That's,
Yep.
that's what we do.
Yeah, it is almost what all small bodies do, and in my opinion, as you should. It just makes it a lot easier for Jill if at the end, okay, we've figured it out, here it is, I move for this.
Okay.
And I think it's good for the public and just yourself, so you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep, yep. We're not too formal on a lot of this stuff, like you said.
No, as you shouldn't
Just
be.
let it roll.
Yes,
Yeah.
you shouldn't. If you find yourself referring to Robert's Rules of Order, you've done something wrong.
Okay.
What's not in, so I've buzzed through the materials, we're moving along. The issue has come up once in a while in terms of funding. So let me kind of hit what I think have been some of the questions out there, and then let's either discuss those or maybe there's other questions. When the city does a budget, that is money that they set aside for you, much like they set aside money for Park and Rec. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have an absolute right to spend it. If you guys see a project you want, you say, look, that's $4,000, we've got, 10 grand in the budget, this is allocated for that, we're in on budget, we want to do it. Jill takes those notes, goes to Brian, he has spending authority up to a certain amount. The list of claims still goes to the council for approval, but something like a $4,000 expenditure, Brian can sign off on. He may want to, if it exceeds the budget on a certain parameters, take it to the council for ultimate approval. But keep in mind that it's, quote, not your money. It's budgeted money for your purposes and stuff like that. And what you're doing is making a recommendation of that's how we want to spend it. So that's sort of budgeted. And you guys went through that at the beginning of this meeting, and how you handled it's perfect. Hey, we've had $6,500 set aside, they want $7,000. We support increasing it by $500. You don't have the authority to do it, but you have the authority to recommend that they do it. You can do some budget transfers if the council will allow things of that nature. Are there questions on that point? Okay. The other issue it's come up with you guys, and I think with the arts, is, hey, we want to raise some money, or we want to have some partnerships out there. Again, if there's any partnerships, those partnerships are going to be a recommendation from you to have the city enter into some sort of contract. And then candidly, it's probably going to be you who administers it. But because it's a contract with the city, it does ultimately need to go to the council. There is an auditor's opinion out there that talks about your ability and a city's ability to solicit money. I know this came up with the arts folks of, can we use city resources to go tap people and say, hey, wouldn't you like to donate? Wouldn't you like to do this? And what the state has said is, you, which are a representative of the city, really aren't supposed to solicit. I think it's a conservative opinion, but it's an opinion nonetheless. So what I have seen people do is say, hey, there's opportunities to support us, things of that nature. I haven't had a problem with some of the flyers that go out. We're doing it now with the snowman. You've seen some of those. Here's an opportunity to buy it. Here's an opportunity to support. But straight on solicitation may be problematic depending on how we do it. Well, if you guys went door knocking.
Are you talking like sponsorships? Because I know that was an
see,
issue.
I
too.
distinguish sponsorships from some of the solicitations. If there's an opportunity, so for example, take it away from this. In the ball field, some cities have, their ball fields, and there's, in the outfield, the boards. Is that solicitation, or is it an opportunity to advertise? Here's an opportunity for you to advertise. We can make that available. I don't view that necessarily the same as just straight up solicitation for donations. I should clarify, solicitation for donations. opportunities to advertise or promote your own product, things like that, I think are perfectly acceptable, and cities and various commissions do that. To the extent that money comes in, let's say you sell a bunch of advertisements for a ball field and the city's okay with it, just keep in mind that when that money comes in, it's coming into the city coffers. What they choose to kick back down to support this programming is up to the council.
So in cases like an event where we've had sponsors in the past that help cover the cost of the event, so we don't have to use money that could be used for playgrounds or something else to cover that event for the public, is that something, that seems like something that's been a gray area in the past? Is that considered solicitation, or is that considered like,
I think that's a partnership.
okay,
So for example, what I've seen is I think the arts had a painting and wine thing or something like that. And I can't remember where it was done, but one of the local bars said, hey, we'll host it. People have to come here, buy their own wine. But it's clearly it was a city event. But the city wasn't necessarily spending money on it. They were publicizing it, making it known, and kind of pushing for their thing. Things like that, those are fine.
I think a big question for us has been, as we're, a few of us are on the commission to kind of plan the fall event last year that kind of went really fast. And the questions have been, when we do an event that might have outside vendors that we could potentially incur money that could go towards, let's say the lifeguards at Silver Lake, that the city doesn't have the money for, doesn't have the budget for, how do we go about adequately raising money for the parks for something that the city doesn't designate funds for? But we have to use outside vendors to do that because we can't just charge people for an event. This goes back to like alcohol in the parks, or even if it's not alcohol, but food selling, making money from those things. Where's the gray line there? Because I look at it, I look at a thing like I think the lifeguards is a really good example where the city doesn't have the money to pay for them. It's a liability to the city to not have them in some regards. It's something the public wants, something certainly Silver Lake area people really want lifeguards back. We did events to raise money in the past that takes a lot of effort, where some events where alcohol or other things are involved, you could raise money a lot easier and a lot quicker. But it seems like we run into a lot of red flags trying to do stuff like that. And I'm not saying it has to be alcohol, but that's just the example we ran into last year. But what would you recommend from your expertise of like, how would we go about doing something like that where we don't have the money in the park fund to pay $15,000 a year to pay for lifeguards when we're trying to make improvements to the park? However, we would have the opportunity with some of these big public events we host to maybe raise money and put it towards that kind of thing.
So first and foremost, I mean, if you guys are out promoting the parks, if people want to donate to the city, so that the city actually statutorily has to accept a donation. At the council level, I think we do it monthly. We run a resolution through acknowledging who's donated. But when they do that, they can say what it's for. Here's $1,000, I want it to go towards the lifeguard. Once the city accepts that $1,000, now there's $1,000 that is earmarked for that lifeguard. So that's one option. People can just donate to the city like you do any other organization. If you are hosting events, so if you have an entity that says, we would like to help host an event and we will use the proceeds to, it'll come back to the city. There is some agreement we're going to have to work through in terms of who's hosting it, who has the liability. The city statutorily cannot spend 1 penny on alcohol. Can't. The state has said you cannot use taxpayer dollars to buy booze. So what we have seen in other cities is sometimes you bring in a vendor, a caterer usually, who can bring in food and alcohol, and you enter into an agreement with them, with the city, that says, look, you're going to pay us $2,000 to set up shop here, or maybe there's a profit share, not a profit sharing, but a cost sharing type agreement in place.
Or donation they could kick back. But we were told that like wasn't allowed.
Yeah, I was told we can't really go into a contract. So how do you get a vendor that's going to do food and alcohol?
So a good example was Max offered to do it last fall. They said, we can come in. We have the license, we have the insurance, we will sell everything, we have the employees, and we'll make money, and then we will donate to you. A portion of what we make is like a thank you or something like that. But we were told there was other reasons involved with that contract, but what is something like that, like where it is a completely,
We can try and get there. The thing that I would say was frustrating about last fall the fact scenario kept changing
Yeah.
every other time. So we need, when we give an opinion, it's based on what we know at that time.
yeah,
I would say if you want to have an event where alcohol is and where there is food and we have a caterer, I don't know if Max is a caterer or not.
They haven't been established for 3 years. The 3 years business.
a weird
is
3-year
a-
So
business.
those facts matter.
Yeah,
Yep.
So that's why if you want to do something, we can try and help brainstorm on
Yeah.
that with you. But we would just need to know all the facts on it. Alcohol is such a hard issue for local government.
Yeah.
Because you cannot, and it's just an absolute bright line spend on it. Now, it doesn't mean when you go to some of these city-sponsored events, there isn't alcohol, but they've brought in a caterer or something like
yeah.
that.
And I think we were okay with that. We don't want to have anything to do with that. And, you know, maybe it's not something we do this year, but I think it would be great to know in future events as we're working with the Art Commission, like how do we get some of these events? And what we know is it's really hard for Susie next door to say, here's $100 for lifeguards. Will she come and drink 7 beers? Hopefully not that many, but people are more willing to donate to a good cause if they're getting something themselves out of it, right? And maybe that's food, maybe that's something else, but it doesn't have to be solved today, but it would be great to know, like, what can we do to work around it? So future events, if we decided to do something like that, we could potentially,
Well, and where we've run into problems is we've seen so think of for example, Parade of Homes. What the state has said is you buy a ticket to go to the Parade of Homes. If one of those homes has a bucket of beer, hey, welcome to this home, have a beer while you walk around, you are supposed to have received a liquor license for that. And so it gets very strict around alcohol. So the mechanism of how you do it, we'll give you 2 free drink tickets. No, you have just sold booze on that. So your $10 entry gets you 2 drink tickets. No, that drink ticket is built into that $10. To do that, you need a liquor license. That's why, from my perspective, if we can figure out how to involve a caterer, if we're really bent on this idea of having food and booze to host an event, which makes sense, we should really explore the option of a caterer.
okay. I think we could still work on that in the background, but I do think there was a hindrance with the 3-year thing because I felt like the irony with that, and maybe that's something the council could look at, was that,
I recall there was something in the statute, I have to look.
It's a statute. We
Yeah.
just,
The caterer isn't even something issued by the city.
Having liquor in the park is one thing, selling liquor in the park was another thing. So
Yep.
even having the caterer and the liquor license, they're still selling in the park. We'd have to look at that.
okay,
Because the moment, and again, it's a good idea, we look at it, we figure out, we get the caterer, but then we look at our ordinance and it says no alcohol in the parks.
Wouldn't this
And I don't
be
know if
like a
that's the case.
2-year
but-
thing we work on, like, I don't know that we're dead set on it this year, but it just would be something that feels like could be a win for us in the future, especially as, I get emails about Silver Lake and like, how do we solve the getting money for that? Because it doesn't seem to be coming from the city. That seems like the best option to me, where we could make a decent amount of money towards the lifeguards, since it's a lot of money that has to be made ground there.
And then just the final thing about that to keep in mind, when the city each year looks at its insurance and says, here's the things we're going to be doing, we're going to plow snow, we're going to have a police department, hosting these events with booze is not one of the things we're disclosing.
No.
And all of a sudden, you do have some potential liability there. And the fact that instead of just a playground where people are on the slides, which, if someone's on a slide, falls off and breaks their collarbone, those are the sorts of events that are covered. The city hosts an event to try and raise money. Someone drinks and trips based on booze served by a vendor we've encouraged and brought in. You may not even have insurance for it. And so there are a number of, it seems so simple, and I understand it, but you have liquor licensing, you have insurance, you have our own code and the restrictions on where booze can be. And then each time we tweak something, it changes the fact scenario on something we have to look at. And that's why it gets so complicated.
I do want to specifically talk about sponsorships because that was something, so there was an event, I don't even remember what it was, where we named in the advertisement that it was the school district and Parks and Recs Commission put together. And I was told that I needed to remove the school district portion of it because they couldn't co-sponsor. Does that sound familiar at all?
I'm not sure what.
Yes, Fire and Ice.
Ice.
So fast, and we did it in like
Yes.
2 weeks. I'm not even sure. It was like a
Yes. So the Fire and Ice Festival, just like a free community event, on social media was said that it was, I don't know if it was the word sponsor, whatever, but it was the school district and Parks and Rec Commission are putting this on. No money was exchanged. It was on a city.
I don't recall that, Jill. Was that something Leah had
It was really
mentioned?
fast, that's why I'm like, I don't even remember how
I'll look back at my emails and maybe we can figure it out.
to buy that for any
Yeah.
other event that happens.
What I would say is, again, on these sponsorships and events, if it's sort of the more planning and reaction time we can have to some of these things, the better. And I felt like last fall, there was a lot of ideas and we were reacting to it, and that's good. I don't want to stifle ideas. What I'd like to make sure folks understand is when we do these partnerships and things of that nature, again, if that partnership required a contract, you guys aren't able to enter into a contract. That has to go to the council.
And it didn't. It was all like, it was ice skating in a park. It was just that we were donating our time.
Yep.
I believe it may have been the Facebook piece. But I get
What
what
about
you s-
Facebook?
I believe as I recall, it had to do with the city wasn't communicating it at the time, but there's a lot of variables. I understand, sir, and I think it sounds like what you're saying is we need to, for each event, we need to have a plan in place so you guys can review what we're gonna
That's
be
would
doing.
help. Yep, yes. And again, once we figure out how to do it, because we can do a lot of these things. It's just a matter of putting the right pieces in place. And so if you come up with a plan, you want to do Fire and Ice. We just did that in St. Louis Park. We coordinated something where over St. Patrick's Day, they turned the ice sheet green and did some bowling on it of all things, brought in a caterer, there's food and drinks, and we were able to do it. But as simple as that sounds, there's a lot of pieces that are associated with that.
I would imagine, for example, if we like to do a lot of stuff with the school district,
Yep.
that the school district would have to go to probably the school board.
I would think so.
No,
And-
they don't need to go to the school board.
They don't need to go to the,
You just have to have a contract signed by the business office.
there we go.
There you go.
So then,
A source close to me has told me that.
good.
Well, then
So,
they've got full
It
contract.
sounds like when we,
We need to know what part of that needs to coordinate with the city.
Yep.
So that the city knows it's part.
Yeah, it's more about the
I
city.
don't think Fire and Ice even knew we were partnering with the school. So that was.
Right, and at the same time, but like, there's no money exchanging. We were partnering in like,
But you cannot advertise on behalf of the city without some approvals. Again, you don't have the authority to do that.
it was approved by the city. It was on the, it was a flyer. It was just a flyer that was shared on a community Facebook page.
Who approved it?
Approved what?
You said it was approved by the city.
I don't know who approved the flyer. It was sent to the city and then the city shared it and then it was shared on a community page.
I guess my advice going forward is if there was past confusion, perfect, fine, good. I would like to move on from it. If there's,
I completely agree, but I am bringing this up.
Yep.
Yes, that is a like specific thing that we can work on going forward, but there's been this theme of not being able to have sponsorships that has come from many people, council members. Jill, I feel like you have said we can't have sponsorships or the city is unclear about what sponsorships is gonna look like. So I just specifically wanna clarify, are we able to collect sponsorships from outside vendors for our events to offset the cost of the event?
so when you say sponsorship, walk me through what you're envisioning.
So, who's, it's Gallagher's or something? Gallagher's donates $500 to the
That
park.
donation has to go to the city, and it has to be approved and accepted,
Okay, and I believe it is.
okay?
And that money is then said to offset the cost of the egg hunt.
Okay,
And his name is on a poster.
that
saying
says
Sponsored by
Gallagher's.
Financial.
And we can make that happen, but again, it's not a matter of just walking the check into the city and handing it in.
That's not the part, we just were told we could not have sponsors on any of our events.
We can look at that. If that was said before, we can take a look at how we handle that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because
And I
that's the
would-
disconnect. I think we have businesses out there that want to give us money, but now the the letter that goes out saying, hey, we're open, send us what you want your money to go towards, was cut off. And so now we're struggling because I think the businesses want to give us money, but I don't have any way of asking them or letting them know that we're ready to take their money.
So sometimes there's an issue of if there's issues with communication or internal controls on that, it's not necessarily legally you can't. Sometimes
Okay.
it's a function if we're set up to do.
Great. So it's a systems issue. It's not that we can't do it.
We can help get you there.
Okay,
Cool.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are good discussions. It gets hard. I mean, it doesn't need to be hard, but it's not only legally doing it right, but internal systems controls on it. And then, just candidly on some of it, on the donation side of things, just the processing costs of certain things, is it worth it to proceed when you get some of these things? And I'm not trying to diminish some of these donations, but I do know that that's a discussion some cities have had is, this event sounds nice, but we're just not in a position to allocate the resources to it at this point in time.
So what I would think, from what I'm understanding from you, is moving forward, when we do these events, we're gonna have to go through a lot of protocol.
Well, it sounds like we need to send,
to-
probably tonight, like a list of what we're planning to do this year up to council so that these separate commissions that are working on stuff don't keep working on things if they're like, we don't like this idea, or we don't want concerts in the park, or we don't want whatever.
Yeah.
It sounds like to me, what I took out of this is maybe before the meeting tonight, we say, here's a list of events and dates and what they are. And
2 items down, that's what we're
Yep,
doing.
that's what we're gonna hit
great,
that.
good, let's do that.
And that would help us. If
Subcut.
we know the dates, then the council can approve the dates. If we know that we're going to partner with people or we're going to seek sponsorships, just how are we going to pay for it? And then we can put that in place and we can set up and we can help facilitate instead of being the perceived roadblock.
And that should come first. Well, we usually break these down into committees.
Okay.
It makes it a whole lot faster for meetings, so the meetings don't last. Then we let the committees decide what they're gonna do and come back to the park commission and the park commission. So I imagine the park commission would also wanna know that we're doing a partnership
Yep.
too. And that's okay. We're just learning as we go on.
100%.
Yep, the learning curve.
No, it is. And it's good work. This is exactly why these committees exist. You're engaging the facilities that you're directed to. It's good civic engagement. Let's get it done. Just give us some notice and heads up on it. We do, believe it or not, despite some of our past perhaps failures or road bumps, we want to facilitate these things.
It just, I think we're having these discussions because it was a change from the past, and everything was happening so fast that none of us, you all included, had an opportunity to like sit down and have the communication that needed to be had. So now I feel like we know what we need to do going forward, and we can do that.
Well, and candidly, I think, and it's a fair reaction. I can tell you that Brian and I have sat down and said, here's some things we've been doing. We need to do it better. We need to button it up a little bit. And so I think some of the resistance you guys were feeling last fall is a function of that. I would give you an example. The city has supported the Historical Society for a long time. It's an asset of the community, and it's something that there's a desire to continue to support. Well, things have been going on with handshakes and sort of things like that. At the council meeting last night, we actually entered into an agreement with the Historical Society say, look, here are the things we will provide you. And it was just an opportunity to button it up. And so we are actively trying to run things a little bit cleaner and more just out in the open and more purposeful. So I do think the buzzsaw you hit in the last fall was a part of that as we were kind of trying to get our feet underneath us.
That's growing pains.
It is. It is.
I'm good.
Does that make sense?
Anything else?
Nope.
Any other questions for Soren?
I have,
Subcommittees that we do here for the
Yep.
different events. I don't want to rip anything out. How does that fall into the open meeting law?
Yeah.
No, good question. Thank you.
So what the law says is committees and subcommittees are subject to the open meeting law. Now, I usually get resistance that a park committee should have to be subject to the open meeting law. I get a lot of resistance if I ever suggest that a subcommittee should be subject to the open meeting law. The gold standard would be you'd publish it even if it's two of you. What I would say is my view, and there's opinions to support this, is if they are ad hoc committees, if you at the beginning of the year said we're going to form these committees, I think they probably are subject to the open meeting law. If, as you guys are going through, it's, we should just quick do a committee to figure out fire and ice, I think those are ad hoc committees that aren't subject to the open meeting law. But if you have standing, long-running committees, the law is pretty clear. That's subject to the open meeting law. That's right. Now, be careful how fast and loose you play with that, but
Yeah.
that is the deal, yeah.
And it doesn't take, and all it would be is a notification to the public, right?
It is. It's a notification to the public. It's open to the public. You need minutes. Technically, you should vote on things. And no, it's not a big deal. Would you care if the public came and watched? Probably not.
Would the public show up? Probably not.
No, I agree. Open meeting
But-
law doesn't care if the public participates or
Right.
not, but yeah, if it's an ad hoc committee, I think you're fine. Yep. All right.
I
that
have
answer
one
your-
more question,
Oh, yep.
because I know park meetings were a thing before,
Or what?
having their meetings in the park,
Oh,
and that was eliminated, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. I know ADA accessibility was a big thing, but does it have to be,
does not need to be in City Hall. You do have ADA concerns, but it has to be in the city. There was recently an opinion where city councils were holding meetings outside the city, and an opinion was given there's a state agency that actually governs data practice and open meeting law. They said, as a city, your meetings need to be in the city. So from my perspective, from an open meeting law standpoint, as long as they're in the city, you're fine. You do have potentially ADA concerns. I can tell you that North St. Paul, that is something that's monitored really closely, and it was an issue before. I don't know if I'm not an ADA compliance person. I don't know if the place that you guys were looking at was ADA compatible or not.
I think Casey is, it has handicap parking, it has ramps, and it has everything.
Casey is,
Silver should be.
well, depending on where we do it.
Oh.
The whole Zoom thing isn't like a requirement.
No, so Zoom is somewhat off the table at this point too. That's a good point. During COVID, weren't in person, we were doing Zoom. Pursuant to the open meeting law, the legislature in essence took that away from us. Now, in somewhat of a weird move, everyone was Zooming so we could avoid contact. COVID makes sense. What the legislature, the way the law is right now, is if you want to appear via Zoom, you have to give staff notice. You're still able to appear via Zoom, but it has to have been in the notice. So if it wasn't in the notice, you can't appear via Zoom or participate anyway. If you, however, go on vacation and give us the notice, and we put that you're going to be in, Miami, Florida on vacation, but you'll appear in a public place, the hotel lobby or wherever, the law does allow that. If you are stuck in traffic and aren't going to make it on time, but can figure out how to get on your iPhone, the law does not allow that. Now, what we have done, and it hasn't been tested yet, is we do allow folks to appear via Zoom, participate, but not vote. So if it hasn't been noticed, I would say that you can't vote.
Talking us as individuals.
Yes, I am.
The group collective.
Correct, right. I wouldn't push the issue, I wouldn't push the issue and try and go back to the full group meeting remotely. The legislature made it clear, we want you back in person.
But as long as we're in the city and
Yep.
it's an ADA building like Casey, we can do the park ones.
For sure. And assuming it's been noticed.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I would just put on our agenda that I post to the website that the whole group is meeting at Casey.
It's just a
You
regular
don't have to
meeting
bring your
notice.
computer and try to get people on Zoom. That's what I feel like, that's what you're asking
You're
too,
not
right?
required to allow people to participate via
Okay.
Zoom. There's no requirement.
Yeah.
as it's advertised,
Yep,
as long as there's notes, and as long as we run it like a meeting,
yep,
people can get there.
yep. It has to be open, has to be accessible, has to have been properly noticed, and as long as it's in the city, you're fine. Now, I will say that, again, subject to change, and the legislature's looking at the open meeting law on the Zoom stuff because of some pushback again. So the advice I'm giving you here in March may be obsolete come August 1.
Anything else for Soren? Questions, comments?
If there's questions, I feel like the money and the sponsorship were kind of the big things. I think we've covered it. I don't want to keep kicking that thing. Give us some notice, let us work on it, and I think we can help facilitate that.
Great.
All right. I will leave you to it at 7:35.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Soren.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, everyone.
All right, election of chair and co-chair positions, opening it up to motions.
I make a motion to leave it as is with you as the chair and Laura as the vice.
Laura, are you okay with that? Okay, I'm okay with that. Second the motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Done.
Done. 2023 calendar of events. Jill?
Let's see. Pretty similar to last year, just updated the dates, because everything will just move one day, but like the music in the parks are set. Fall Frolic did move up because of another event that was on the date we had previously picked. Food truck night is debatable. I mean, I guess you can kind of look through and see if there's any changes you want to,
So the Fall Frolic is called the Autumn Arts Festival now,
Autumn Art Festival.
and it's arts, plural.
Arts with an S?
And that will be the ongoing title,
Autumn Art Festival.
Yep.
Autumn. Yep.
Autumn Arts Festival.
Okay.
So, Sarah, that's yours, right?
Yeah, me and Laura.
Or Laura, too. I think it's probably a good time now if we're going to have sponsorship or partnership.
Well, do you want to go through the list of these events first, then we can go into the how did you want to do this, Jill?
Well, I guess
To be as efficient as possible.
maybe we should just run through the calendar real quick. so
Yeah.
we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I just realized that too. So up until May is just meetings. Car show is run by the History Cruisers. They put everything on. That starts June 2nd. June 9th is an addition to the calendar. That is the city-sponsored evening. So that would be the night that the History Cruisers want Park and Rec, art and culture. Anybody who wants to be part of the car show and do like a tent with an activity to be there.
Oh, okay.
If that works for you, let me know for sure, and we'll let them know we're going to be there.
I will be gone that date, so I can't volunteer to sign up to help with that. Sorry.
That's the last day of school. That
Yeah.
that is a hard a hard time of the year, but maybe
And the weekend of my 40th birthday, more importantly, so I will not be here.
Well, I'll have to remember this.
All set then.
Thanks for letting us know.
Friday?
Jason.
Be in Alaska for a wedding, so June 9th.
Okay, so unless Sue and
It's just
Ingrid
Joe. Joe's
step
gonna run
up,
it.
we're- Joe, it's up to you now.
We did it, and I guess we're working with the dates they have. I mean, we could still do the event on our own date, on our own property, like Housey or somewhere else, if we really wanted to, I suppose, right? I know people had some passions around, like, doing the movie, which I think is great. I will say, my only thought around the movie on Main, if we were to do that, is the car show, as great as it was to get the population and to people to be able to get food and stuff during that event, It was really loud. Like it was really hard to hear the movie, and of course the summer starts getting later and later, so it's harder for young kids, depending on the age of movie, to stay up that late. I'm not opposed to it by any means, but the last time we did it, the bands were still playing between bands at Newman's and bands other places, and we were fighting with them to hear the movie, and we spent a lot of money on it.
Right on top of them.
Yeah.
That's two different things. This car show that I have on here is more like just a tent.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
like-
running that into Movie on Main. Got it.
Stickers or something like that. Movie on Main can be a completely different thing.
Got
if
it,
you
got
want
it.
To start that.
What if we put movie on Main with food truck night?
Ooh.
In a park.
Great idea.
And then there could be like an inflatable screen that we rent.
Love that.
Food trucks there, and people can get the food and,
Housley's still a great spot for that too, because you've got that big field right there.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, let's
so
do that.
Would you replace
Gonna take that on.
band with the movie instead?
Joe,
Yes.
at any time, feel free to step forward. That being,
intimidating at all,
that
Lloyd.
being said, we'd walk you through everything as you went.
Okay.
So,
Take on helping, you mean?
yeah, take on helping, take on volunteering, take on coordinating.
This is his first meeting, so,
No,
I mean, you're welcome, of course.
we're gonna have to start, sounds like we're gonna have to start moving forward because all of a sudden it's gonna be here. Now, granted, we won't have any snow outs again, but we're 500 lately with the weather, so.
Maybe your summer date isn't so bad.
Yeah, I don't know if we should do that, if we should do food truck in July. I
That
wouldn't-
went really well, though.
So I have a little update with Housy too. So that was supposed to be part of my reports, but if you're gonna plan anything with Housy, I think we have all year. Pick any date you want. The bids came back higher, much higher. So we're working through some details, and I don't know if the work will start this year.
Oh. Oh, that's right.
More information to come.
Cool.
Good point. That may start, huh? Who knows?
I don't know what happened. So,
Okay. Well, we can't do anything about that now.
no, so feel free to plan any day for,
So why don't we
So are we just going
go through,
this right now?
let's,
This is-
we're gonna run through all of them and then we can go back and,
Do you have to get approval for like doing a tent at the car show? Is that part of events considered,
no,
Jill, that you need
that's
approval?
why they gave us the June 9th. That's the city night
Oh, city. Okay, got it.
for all commissions, fire, police.
So maybe we just need to go out on email to the whole commission to see if anybody would be available for that show, if we want to do it.
Okay.
Otherwise, then we can move on to the next event, which is the concerts in the park.
Yeah, who's taking?
Ingrid doing that?
Ingrid is working on that. She has June, she has July, and I think she is going to be starting on August pretty soon. So those are good.
Do we know who the bands are?
She's has Brio Brass.
Okay.
She found more of a kids band, Bazillions. So we're working on getting them, and then Empty Pockets will be in August.
Okay.
I don't think they know that yet, but that's who she's going to call.
okay, so we got music in the park taken care of.
Yes.
What's a tree adoption?
That's something Jill manages,
Jill does it? Okay.
don't you? Yeah, people,
Public Works.
yeah, it's not something we have to worry about.
Food truck, what did you decide, Laura? You gonna keep the,
What feels like a good date for your movie and the
Well,
park?
if we do a movie in July, that's gonna be crazy late. That's gonna be like a movie at like 9.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I was thinking we either push it up earlier
June?
in June, or later in the fall.
I feel like
Well,
later in
the
the fall,
the-
we have that other event, so.
the most light's gonna be in June, though.
June 20, I mean, it's
It's gonna be, that's
it's gonna
almost.
be a lot all summer, so it doesn't, till end of August.
Okay, maybe we just don't, like, it's a good idea. I don't know.
The movie?
Yeah,
We did the movie when it was light outside, when it was on Main too. Because it had a big projector.
We did it where maxes now, though, so I don't know where we're gonna do it.
At Housey.
Housing.
We'll leave it on the date. I will figure the movie out.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
leave it.
But the goal is to put the movie on the food truck night.
Yeah.
I love that idea. That's a great suggestion.
Any sponsorship you're gonna want with that besides the city? Laura?
I don't know.
This year I had secured like 5,000 for our total budget for events. So with the bands, Fall Frolic, Star Watch.
Could
Just check with me on what movie you picked because there might be a range of pricing on it.
Could we not ask again, and my brain is tired, it's been a long day, but could we not ask the food truck vendors to pay like $100 to be part of the event and then that money go towards the movie? Or is that soliciting donations?
I honestly don't have the answer.
Okay.
But so really the cost of food truck night and movie on Main would be the cost of the screen, the cost of licensing for the movie, which is last time was roughly like 500 to 750 for licensing.
I think we paid like $1,500 for the whole kit and caboodle.
Okay, so roughly 1,500 or so.
Let me see. And then maybe by then we'll be able to figure out the sponsorship thing.
And ideally, that would be a named event with the school district, like community ed event. And maybe we can have some, instead of just having food trucks, we could have some pop-up table stuff if we wanted to. Like if people wanted to share about programs or something like that.
Okay. Does the school have some sort of budget? Would that be something that we'd split the cost with them then?
We definitely could talk to the budget manager.
Okay.
So all that's gonna have to go to city council, I take it, from what Soren
Yeah,
says.
that's kind of new. But,
This is
I
gonna
mean,
be a learning curve. Everybody stand by and
I can't accept gifts
hang in there.
more than $5. I would, yeah, so the youth programs definitely has budgets or has the ability to do that. We would just need to have a contract for service, and then the city would need to sign it, and you and I can work on that offline.
Okay. So we'll keep working on food truck night, having a movie there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, Fall Frolic?
Yep, so that, like Laura said, this, we can give a small report on this now if this feels okay, or we can wait to the end. But Autumn Arts Festival is the name. We've gone through a couple renditions of what it's going to be, but it's going to be held at Casey Lake Park is our plan. The Arts Commission, what we decided is to give the event a little bit more purpose and theme it around the arts. So where last year we did bingo, we had it as a community event. We're kind of centering the community event around the arts. So it will still include kind of the artists, craft, vendor portion of that. And the other parts we are working at is kind of artist demonstrations, whether that be still performances and music, but arts plural being like all kinds of arts. So music, theater, all the genre of arts, and so we're still working on all the details of that. We still plan to have food trucks there as part of that. Laura's going to work on the food trucks since she's already working with this. One of the things her and I did talk about is we really liked the shakeup that we had different food trucks than that was at the History Cruisers night. So being able to work up front with them, so if they pay that fee, they might be able to come to food truck night and our Autumn Arts Festival, I think will be nice, so that we're not just, if you go to the downtown car show, you're not like, oh, it's the same vendors again. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a little bit longer, so 11 to 7. And then we'll have those demonstrations throughout the day. So instead of having like kids activity from 1 to 2, it's going to be these things are happening. So I'm making these things up, like someone's, carved ice demonstration is happening 1 to 2. Kids, whatever is happening here to here. There's going to be things going on throughout the day so people can come and go as they please. We're still working out those details because we had to go back on a lot of the things we chatted about our last meeting. So we have another meeting to chat in a couple weeks where we're going to start filtering through some of this information. The Art Commission did set a price for the spaces, and they're going to work with you guys to start setting up the system to accept. We are doing a little differently where we're going to accept applications and then choose who we pick to be the vendors for this event. So as we pass that information along, it's not like you're just guaranteed to get in, so that we can limit MLMs and, not having 7 candle vendors or 7 tumbler vendors or something like that, as we build this kind of event up. And we're very lucky because one of the new commission members on the Arts Commission is a very seasoned art fair attendee and knows a lot about knows a lot about these things. So we're excited. We think it's going to be fun. We're still working through the details. Alcohol was brought up, but we did say it's not a priority for this. It's not. I do think it's still something that we should work on or understand in the future if that was something we wanted to do. But at this exact moment, we've kind of shaved off the idea of the dance or like bingo or anything like that to kind of focus it in on activities for everybody in the family. So,
Keep us posted.
yeah.
Star Watch. Nancy has asked me to take that. I'll take that.
Okay.
I'll get a hold of you. Oh, do we have Mike locked into that?
I believe she did, yep,
Okay, I'll touch base with you
yep.
and move that forward.
Okay.
And we got Fire and Ice on with Laura with Fire and Ice.
Same thing, as
Same thing.
always. Same thing as it has been. It went super well.
It was great.
And it's very low key. And making hot chocolate worked perfectly. Like, we don't need a whole
Yeah,
whole
it didn't
thing.
need to be a big thing.
Nope.
It's really just weather dependent and how many hours Public Works has available. So it always depends on how much snow we've already had.
Yeah.
And their hours and kind of stuff.
So for some of these bigger events, is this something that we could, especially for like the Autumn's Arts Festival, could we get this in front of council sooner than later so they could say yay or nay to something like that? Seeing as Soren was saying, like resources, I'm thinking parking is always, we always need officers, like that is a city resource thing we need for some of those bigger events,
And
even food truck night.
Cassidy would be here and then she would bring this information to them.
Okay.
I don't think,
Laura, are you gonna
we have
do it in conjunction, the Fire and Ice in conjunction with the school district next year? Is that the plan?
No, I'd rather do it for the food truck night and movie. That seems like a more fitting thing. And
Okay.
the Fire and Ice was low key enough that before it involved like food trucks and stuff, so it was a bigger lift. I think
Okay.
just simple is fine this time around.
That's it. Anything else on the events at this point? All right, moving on to the ball field discussion. Fees related to the nonprofit and profit.
That's in discussion. I'm not sure if you guys have any information you want to give me, but it turned into a lot of research on contracts, what we have with the Legion, who's using the fields, how much to charge. And so they just had a workshop with city council. Not sure how much there is to discuss at this point
Okay.
still.
All right,
Did you have anything in particular? Because, I mean, I know it started with a bunch of emails, but then it turned into a lot of research on contracts that we had with people.
We can talk about it next month if we need to.
Maybe,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But it doesn't sound like we need to right now.
old business, any old business? Reports from staff, park sign post color and production update.
I feel like this is, because of the last meeting being January, the park sign changed a little bit. The posts are gonna be black. So instead of the whole sign being blue with the blue posts and the blue sign, the post that the sign is in is black.
Where'd that come from?
Availability
Okay,
and durability. So he's like, if it hits it, that blue chips off, then you're left. So it's gonna just look better, I
Makes
think,
sense.
longer.
Great.
Okay. They're actually supposed to be shipping this week. I haven't heard anything, but it's happening. Yeah. Yeah, I talked a little bit about the Harsey Park bid that, they opened the, bids on the 9th. And then my vacation crisscrossed over WSB's. So I didn't get a whole lot of information, but it sounds like they came in really high.
But we're moving forward.
Can't move forward if it's above what we approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're
So
moving.
Brandy is working on this a lot. This is now on her plate.
Okay.
So hopefully
right.
to have more
Is there an
info
estimate
for
of
that.
how much, like 25% over or like 50? Like, are they coming in like half a mil? I just want to know. I'd just rather know before I come into it if I've like.
Let's see, I think I saw anywhere between 370 and 415.
How do we get so high if the, oh, who knows, huh?
Brandy will let us know
Timing.
at another time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not a good time to go out for anything.
Wait a minute, okay. Yeah.
With time, those prices will readjust. And then
City emails,
we also talked, about this one.
those
too.
go out to everybody then?
Should have gone out to everybody, should have received an email from Carrie with the northstpaul.org email. Go ahead and set that up.
Can we add that email to like our phone or something, like so it's like accessible, or do we have to go to the website and log in to?
It's an Outlook. It's an Outlook email, but I tried to add it and it was a whole thing.
Did you get it?
I have to get more information. I mean, it's so
You say a
easy
whole
for me.
Well, right. It's like your same email.
Your Outlook, yeah.
I'll do more research on into getting it on there, but I had to like download an authenticator app. It was like a
If you,
whole thing.
Weird thing.
Sarah, if you add it to your phone, remember, it may subject your phone to.
My phone's owned by Target. They can have that fight if they want.
Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, the way I get into mine is I go to the northstpaul.org website, all the way at the bottom, there's employee access. It should function like that because it's a North St. Paul.
So we had to go to a website. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because if there was a shortcut, I would take that
Okay.
for accessibility.
app.
Or checking it.
And that's all I had.
Reports from the commissions. Anybody, I'm gonna go down. Sarah, anything?
Nope, I did it during the.
Okay. Laura?
I can talk about the community garden unless somebody else was going to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Were you gonna?
No, I didn't have any.
It's not gonna happen. There isn't enough time between now and when you would need to garden to get it set. So we're working on it, but it's not gonna happen this year.
Okay.
It'll happen next.
It's a work in progress.
Yep.
Okay. I got nothing. Except for I'll just follow up with Jill on Star Watch. Artie? Nothing. Joel?
So Star Watch is me.
No, Star Watch is not you. Star Watch is me. If you want to help with Star Watch.
Okay, sure. I mean,
Okay.
what
The
events?
nicer thing to do would be add him to something so he can like help out versus
Something-
put it on him.
something.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's, no, Star Watch is me. You want to help with Star Watch?
Sure.
Okay.
Is there anything that I am spearheading as of now?
No.
Okay.
We're not going to throw you that far into the den.
All right.
And as we talk more, if any of the events you're like, oh, I really want to be a part of that, just let us know and we'd happily have you
Yep.
hop on
Okay.
as you get to know more about what they are, so you actually know what you're signing up for.
Right.
And even as you, like, if you're really passionate about, my advice is if you're really passionate about something and it doesn't exist, like, bring it up to the commission. That's how all these events have gotten started, by one of us bringing it up. So
Yeah.
you don't have to stay restricted to what we have. If there's something you wish you could see, bring it up, because I think that's what's great about being on this commission, is you're able to bring something to community that you would also like to see.
Okay.
A lot of these events, like Music in the Park and Fall Frolic, and what'd you call it? Art?
It's the Autumn Arts Festival.
Autumn Arts Festival, thank you, and so forth, have been in the works for many years. We got people that are on committees. The Easter egg, that one started out, 4 or 5 years ago?
We haven't had it for like 3 years.
1,500 people showed up.
Lloyd, it was like 5,000.
So if
5,000?
if you have an idea, we'll help you navigate all of the things you have to do, the people you need to talk to make it happen. But just know it's relatively easy to pull off with the supports provided by the commission and the city.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Sarah makes a motion, second. Artie seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?